Well, well, well. Is this not an interesting way to open up the Western Canadian part of today's show? Because what I wanted to do was go over onto an article published on thescore.com. This was by Josh Wegman from 2 days ago, where he answers 5 questions after the Edmonton Oilers declined to match the St. Louis Blues offer sheets. Now, you already can infer where we are going with this video commentary based off of the title and based off of the thumbnail. But essentially, the Oilers are in a pretty interesting spot. They got themselves a few extra guys to try and fill in the gaps while Broberg and Holloway yeeted off to St. Louis. We had discussed about the Vasily Podkolzin trade. We talked about Ty Emberson. Cody Ceci was sent away. We also talked about the pity trade between St. Louis and Edmonton after the offer sheet thing went down. But one of the questions that is asked to Josh Wegman on the Score heading into this article was about the state of Edmonton's defense. Let's go out there and read what Wegman has to say. Third-line wingers are very replaceable, as Stan Bowman proved with the addition of Vasily Podkolzin, a similar yet cheaper option to take Dylan Holloway's spot. A top 4 defenseman, on the other hand, not so much. That's the role Broberg was projected to take this upcoming season. His absence leaves the Oilers' blue line with some major question marks now and in the future. Here is the projected Oilers D-core for next year. You've got Mattias Ekholm, Evan Bouchard, Darnell Nurse, Ty Emberson, Brett Kulak, Troy Stecher, and then Josh Brown as an extra. Now, honestly, I like the top of that. Ekholm, Bouchard, fantastic. Even Darnell Nurse, for all the flack that he gets, he's not a bad player. It's just the bottom 3 here and the bottom 2 on the right side are a little bit questionable. I love Troy Stecher. He's a local guy. He's from Richmond here in BC, and I actually met the guy last year as well when he was doing the Minaru charity thing, but I don't know if he is a full 82-game NHL defenseman at this point in his career. And for Ty Emberson, you can say that thrusting him into a top 4 spot might not be all too great either. This is why Wegman writes about how, in this part of the article, down the road, Broberg was an option to eventually succeed Mattias Ekholm. The Oilers are in win-now mode right now, so the present matters more than anything, and presently they're lacking a top 4 defenseman to play alongside of Darnell Nurse. Emberson is the best bet to take that spot. While he only has 30 games at the NHL level under his belt, he did flash some intriguing shutdown ability as a rookie with the Sharks in 23-24. Kulak is a solid third-pairing defender, but is best kept in that role. Stecher and Josh Brown are nothing more than depth options. So, this is where Wegman evolves the article into a bigger discussion. Which defensemen are there that the Edmonton Oilers can target? Adding a top 4 D-man by this 2025 trade deadline will clearly be a top priority for Bowman. Ideally, this player shoots right and excels defensively. So, who could the Oilers add? Among potential right-shooting rentals, Adam Larsson, Will Borgen, David Savard, and Jeff Petrie could be options. Larsson and Petrie are both former Oilers. Then, there are a bunch of other guys on the left side that are discussed as well, but I wanted to focus on 2 of those names, and hey, surprise, surprise, it's the Detroit guy and the Montreal guy that I wanted to turn your attention to. Let's talk about the Montreal Canadiens and David Savard getting traded over to Edmonton. And then we'll get into Jeff Petrie and the Detroit Red Wings, but for now, let's talk about Savard first and foremost. Now, David Savard, I'd say, is one of the more defensively responsible guys amongst the names that Wegman goes out there and lists. 33 years old, 6'1", 234 right-handed guy, signed till the end of 24-25, making $3.5 million a year. Now, David Savard isn't really going to produce too many points, but he did have 24 points in 60 games last year, which was near a career high. Pretty good, honestly, especially for a guy who shuts the play down, he blocks shots, he's physical. David Savard can honestly do it all. In his own zone, that is. So if the goal is for Edmonton to get a shutdown, defensively minded guy to allow Darnell Nurse to be able to play a more lax, offensively focused game, David Savard, I think, is one of the main guys that makes the most sense here. I'd say him and Adam Larsson are the best, most projectable pieces in that conversation amongst the names that were listed. It's just, for Montreal, I feel like they're on such a good hot streak right now that I don't know if the Edmonton Oilers have what it takes to make a trade go down where they actually feel like they're benefiting from it. Like, I would not be surprised if David Savard, with 50% salary retained, let's just say, from 3.5 to 1 point, what is the multiplied by 2 on that? 1.75? Yeah, that's what it is. Think so. But if it's 1.75 salary retained, Kent Hughes says, hey, you guys want to stay under the cap, right? You guys have this cap predicament. Why not we retain salary and you give us 2 first-round picks or something like that? Or a first-round pick and a prospect, or something in that nature. Kent Hughes has a lot of leverage if he's going to negotiate with Stan Bowman, especially after the offer sheet kerfuffle, because everybody knows the Oilers are in a pretty tough spot right now. They're vulnerable, especially since they were making all these trades to try to get these extra guys to fill in spots in the lineup. Cody Ceci is gone, yes, but you kind of need somebody to be able to fill in those minutes, and Ty Emberson, while he's good, he's unproven. Meanwhile, David Savard, totally proven, totally great, and somebody that I think the Oilers should be targeting if they wanted to explore that option. Then you had yourselves the other name that I wanted to talk about in this video. It's Jeff Petrie of the Detroit Red Wings. Now, this is kind of a selfish thing that I'm bringing up here when it comes to Petrie, because he's making $6.25 million against the Detroit Red Wings cap. This is the guy whom, if the Oilers find a way to bring him back over to Edmonton, boy, oh boy, does that relieve a lot of pressure on Stevie Y and the Red Wings. $6.25 million a year. Admittedly, till the end of this upcoming season, so it's not going on for too long. But Jeff Petrie is a guy who, even though he scored 24 points in 73 games played this most recent season, man, has his play really fallen off a cliff the past few years. It's been quite bad to see Jeff Petrie go down the path that he has gone down, especially when it comes to his defensive zone play and just how he manages the puck before the red line. The decision-making, the foot speed, it really is not where it needs to be in order for Petrie to be an effective top 4 contributor, but if he's a guy forced to play in Edmonton's system, split the load with a Ty Emberson on the bottom 2 pairings on the right side, and maybe get Troy Stecher in there once in a while, maybe they play a 7 defenseman game here and there, I honestly do think it would be kind of beneficial for Petrie to go back to an environment that he's familiar in with Edmonton, go over to a team in the Oilers that is admittedly a lot better than Montreal is right now. I don't think the Canadiens are going to be too far behind in the long term. The Oilers are the oldest team in the NHL after all, but if they're going to head into this upcoming season with that label attached to them, might as well go all in, balls to the wall, right? Especially if you need an extra right-handed guy to supplement your defense. Jeff Petrie isn't going to be expensive like David Savard is, because the fact that his contract is where it is kind of makes him a negatively valued asset, so the price would be a lot cheaper. If Stevie Y were even wanting to retain salary, that would make things a little bit easier for Edmonton in that respect. Then maybe the trade's a lot more likely to get done, who really knows? There certainly are options here for Edmonton if they wanted to explore that right-handed defenseman market. I just wanted to go out there and bring up these 2 names because, you know, selfishly, it's fun to make videos talking about Montreal and Detroit guys getting traded over to other teams. So if you're a fan of the Oilers, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the idea of David Savard or Jeff Petrie heading over to your team? If you're a Canadiens fan, what are your thoughts on David Savard potentially getting on the move? If you are a Red Wings fan, what are your thoughts on Jeff Petrie being the guy to go to? If I had to guess, I'd say that honestly there'd be a pretty good chunk of Montreal Canadiens fans that wouldn't want to see David Savard get moved. Not because he's not going to get a lot of stuff in return, it's not worth it to trade him, but more so because if the Montreal Canadiens want to start being competitive in 2024-2025, they're going to need some sort of leadership and veteran experience in some parts of their lineup, and David Savard provides that. Meanwhile, for Detroit Red Wings fans, I honestly think that the majority of them are going to say, hey, trade Petrie. That guy stinks. Like, we don't need him anymore. I do feel like that's going to be a sentiment that is shared quite a lot in the comment section of this video. Feel free to prove me wrong if you think otherwise, but for now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section about this idea of Savard or Petrie going over to Edmonton. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.